Hi, everybody. Anthony, the internet politician here. And before I begin, and if anybody knows that the Madman is not here, this is a kind of a more political, less comedic take. And Madman is my sidekick. It's probably not really in his field house. So maybe next time. But also, just a reminder, this is the 20th year of Politically Crowded. So welcome to the show if you're new. And not the 20th season by any means. I gave up checking seasons about a decade ago. So today's episode is about conservatism and liberalism. And hi, Ultra Marcus. Hi, here you go.
Hey, buddy.
And we are greeted with three panelists, each on a very different spectrum of the political range. First, we have Joe from Ohio, who is a conservative. Hi, Joe.
Hi, nice to meet you all.
Okay. We have Sam as our centrist. He's from Kentucky. Hey, Sam.
How's it going?
And if you remember from my last political video in this series, we have Donald from Texas, who is a liberal.
What's going on, everybody?
So we have, because anybody familiar with my 10 questions format, I always have 10 questions. So we're going to ask each one their opinion on each question. And again, these are opinions. I did not know this. Apparently, the UK has politics.
Nuh-uh.
What?
It seems wrong. Aren't they
Lies. Lies.
Okay, so
Thought they all just got along there.
yeah, we're trying not to turn this into a debate. As much as Joe may want it, this is not going to be a debate.
Hey, I just want all of us to get along. All right, that's it.
So we're going to start with Joe. Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a big Browns fan. I work in downtown Cleveland pretty much. I drive a tow motor for a shipping company, and I'm also a big nerd. I play all the card games you can think of, all the video games you can think of, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, Sam, as our centrist, you're in the middle, so tell us about yourself a little bit.
So I'm from the East Coast area, primarily Florida, but spent some time living in New York, spent some time living in Virginia, South Carolina, kind of up and down that way. I'm also a big nerd. I have a YouTube channel that reviews toys, primarily Transformers. I imagine a lot of the guys watching know that already. Also like video games, though I don't get nearly enough time to play them anymore. It's basically work and then YouTube. So yeah, I just kind of moved around. As far as my career, I did a little over a decade in the Navy. So I'm sure that, shaped my worldview a little bit. And after getting out of that, I just do work as like a technician, electronics, instrumentation, things like that.
Okay. And our liberal is Donald. Of course, Donald is a professor at the University of Texas, if I got that right.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. Nailed it.
So anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I live in the southern desert known as Texas because this place sucks. The heat sucks. Our politicians suck.
Mosquitoes.
I mean, what else am I supposed to say?
I think there's sand there.
Oh, there's sand. There's Texas red sand here, it's a really pretty sand. It really is. It's kind of crazy looking. I am, like Anthony said, I am a professor at Texas State University. You can look it up, and that's pretty much it, man.
You're just living in the wrong state, I think.
You say the wrong state?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, much.
I had the question to Joe. So, as probably everybody here knows, sometimes politics are passed down through generations in a family. My family has been Democrat as far as I am aware, at least on my mother's side. What political viewpoint does or did your parents have?
I would say my mother's side of the family, because my parents were divorced when I was 2. My mother's side is conservative. I get that from her. My dad was, when I was younger, I always assumed he was like liberal left, but I think back in the day it wasn't as like what liberal is today. Like the 90s liberal is different than 2000s liberal, like 2020 liberal. But I guess I would say my conservatism comes from my mother's side because I was raised in her household more than I was raised in my dad's.
Okay. To answer Marcus's question, yeah, because Texas has a technology boom right now.
Yeah.
For example, my brother was here in Ohio. He moved to Texas to work at a tech company. So that is why people are moving to Texas.
A lot of the cities are becoming really expensive to live in too because of that tech boom. So it's coming at a major cost for people who are already living here in the state.
Mhm.
And so, to answer your question, Ultra Marcus, as far as it can't be that bad. It's pretty bad for the people who have kind of already been here. The people who are coming here, it's not, I guess, bad or terrible because it's cheaper than California currently, but it's more expensive than what Texans are used to.
Okay. So Sam, again, generational beliefs passed down. What political viewpoint did your parents have, or do they currently have? I don't know if they're living or dead. That's why the question's phrased the way it is.
That's okay. My dad's passed away, but I would say he and my mother both lean on the conservative end of things. Probably more of a libertarian bend, just because they were, the free spirits, right? Growing up in the, free love time, like to use the recreational substances, as it were. But I think when it comes to social issues, they're probably, more conservative than liberal for sure. My dad being an old redneck and everything, my mom being raised in a pretty religious household, right? Very Catholic household. And my greater family is a lot more mixed in that regard. I have some very conservative family members. I have some extremely liberal family members, and they don't always get along. There's a lot of drama there. So, but yeah, my most direct upbringing was primarily conservative.
The three things we don't talk about in social settings: sports, religion, politics.
Oh, that's so out the window these days. You can't avoid these things anymore. Just
okay. So Donald, political viewpoints of your parents.
None really. They, my mom, my grandparents, they didn't really talk about it around me. They didn't really interject that into my life, and I just kind of grew up just seeing the world for what it was, kind of through the eyes of innocence, and just kind of asking the question of when I got older, like when I was in high school, junior and senior year and stuff, I had the perspective of like none of it matters. Like people would try to argue or talk about it or whatever, and it was always just, to me, it was just stupid. It's like, I don't, I guess I'll give an example of, if like war, right? I would hear people talking about what was it, the Iraq and everything, and I would be like, okay, well, the whole situation ends with two old guys sitting at a table across from each other talking. So can't we just skip all the bloodshed and death and all that other crap and then just skip to the old guys sitting at a table talking to each other? So that's pretty much it as far as their religion or their political views go. So
okay, so back to Joe. So I'm assuming your parents, or at least your mother, had an influence on what led you to your current political viewpoint. But what else influenced you? And then, have you ever wavered? Have you ever switched to alignment at any point in your political position?
I would say first of all, I would definitely say like it was my upbringing did put me on the path of what I like conservative today. I'm not going to deny that. I believe how your culture around you is what you become, product of your environment. So if my environment was conservative and all religious, all that, so therefore I became some sort of that form. I don't think I've really changed too much. If anything, I go from right to middle. Like I don't agree with everything right. Like conservative. I don't believe in like the biggest topic today is abortion, right? I'm not like if you like my always thing is with I'm sorry to bring abortion up, but like this is the huge topic. But like people always say like my body, my choice, which I agree with 100%. But like I'm not like, I'm trying to make sure I don't stutter through my words. But I don't believe like that core value of conservatism. Like I'm not that head dug deep. Have to be everything the right wing people say have to be that way. To me, I could go to the middle a little bit. I can lean middle at some point with some topics. I could be like, you know what, that's a good point. I can lean that way. Like for abortion, for example, I could see like, it isn't me to tell you what to do, and I could see that.
Okay, so that lines up with me. It's I'm not a woman, so I shouldn't make the choice for a woman.
I usually don't like go with that route argument because like I always feel like because not just for a woman, but any topic, wrong is still wrong if you believe it's wrong, and right is still right if you believe it's right. So like it's not about right or wrong to me at the point of with that topic. It's more of like that's a horrible argument in my opinion, because like wrong is still wrong. If you believe something's wrong, like it's still wrong. Like for the conservatives with that topic, they believe it's 100% wrong. So like it's not about who you are. Like you as a man could think, something's wrong, and it doesn't matter what sex you are. Wrong is still wrong and right is still right. But I do agree with like, it's not me, it has nothing to do with me. So
yeah. So Sam, as the centrist, again, our parents influenced or may not necessarily influence your beliefs, but as a centrist, do you find yourself having kind of a wider range because you could go left or right rather easily than somebody on one side or the other?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm never crazy about labels, right? Because centrist means different things to different people. There are some people that think a centrist literally takes the center position on everything. Where it's like, hey, let's kill all these people. Let's not kill all these people. And there's the meme of the centrist,
kill
like,
half
kill
of them.
half the people.
Thanos.
Like, yeah, I mean, maybe there's people out there that think that way, but I think generally it just means that you tackle each issue, on an individual basis and then make a decision based on that. It may be somewhere in the center, it may align to the right, align to the left. So growing up, I think I was definitely, more liberal, very eat the rich, like did not like, people with money, never really understood the idea of profit building wealth, right? I always thought it was very selfish. Just definitely very socially liberal, but most people are more liberal when they're younger and then tend to shift a little bit, as they get a bit older. Even if they stay liberal, they're usually a little bit less than they were when they were like a teenager. So I think for me, it was kind of a natural progression to have a, somewhat rightward shift and then just kind of end up somewhere in the middle. My parents, I don't think, their worldview or my extended family's worldview had a very direct influence on my way of thinking as far as me coming to agree with them, but more so it gave me an ability to understand where other people come from. When you grow up around people that think differently from you, you can at least understand why they feel the way they feel, which does allow you to empathize a little more. And even if you don't agree, you don't necessarily see them as like the enemy, right? You don't see them as this other, and you can, I think it's in everyone's best interest to, I guess, give people the benefit of the doubt. Like if they hold a position that you think might be odious, at least, I guess, accept that they think what they believe is a good thing, that they're not just evil. So I think that's kind of that line of thinking shaped my worldview, whereas I don't like to just pick a camp. A lot of people say pick a side or something. I'm like, no, I refuse to do that. I'm just going to look at every single issue. Some things I have a very left-leaning thought process on, some things probably very right-leaning thought process on, just depending on what makes sense to me. Because for me, it's all about really just finding the best solution for each issue, minimizing harm. I'm very big on conserving life. I don't like the idea of killing people. Not really even crazy about killing animals. Like I'm not a vegetarian, but if I didn't have a store to sell me chicken, I probably would be, because I'm not going to kill it myself unless I'm, a survival situation. I'm going to starve to death. So yeah, for me, it was just kind of a gradual transformation to end up where I am now.
Okay. Donald, did you what influenced your current political viewpoint, and have you always held that political position?
So like I said, I've always, up until Clinton and Trump, I really, I didn't care, to be honest. Like, and all the way up into now, to piggyback off what Sam was saying, I am very much eat the rich, because at the end of the day, you know, it's when I feel like when people say that, they think like rich people, they don't necessarily take into consideration like rich corporations, rich companies, rich stuff like that. And that's where I feel like a lot of the harm gets done, because at the end of the day, a corporation that's led by somebody can be bought. And, you know, a corporation can, here's $1 million or $5 million or whatever into the CEO's bank account, and there you go. Then you get a whole bunch of everything. So, or that leads to a whole bunch of other things. But for me, Clinton and Trump happened, and I was just kind of like, whoa, okay, well, you got two scumbags sitting up there, you know,
Yeah.
and then it kind of becomes, well, shit, you know, it doesn't matter at, you know, at a certain point, you know, you can say it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. But then when you get to the point, you got, like I said, two scumbags sitting up there, and it's one way or the other, which way are you going to vote? Which way, you know what I mean? I ended up picking neither, but then I really started to look into, which means I didn't vote 2016, right? And I started looking into a lot of different things, and how the world, at least our country, had been shaped by different things, a lot of different things. And so I guess through that, it was like, well, I side with the Republicans on some things, you know, like gun rights and everything, very much pro Second Amendment. I am. But through me just digging through history and everything the way that I did, I was, you know, it's like, okay, I'll sit down, I'll talk with anybody. I don't care. You know, I don't care your worldview, your political view, anything, because at the end of the day, if you don't, that stifles creativity and thought and everything else, right? But I guess, like, long story short here, because, you know, it's kind of long-winded, I guess, but it's just like the world view, or like my country's view, and everything just kind of happened, and it was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff that through history that I don't agree with, and if I have to pick a side, if I'm being forced to pick a side, you know, then I guess this is a side that I pick, I guess. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yep.
So, Joe, define conservatism.
I guess, like, my definition of conservatism is like, I mean, I guess at least for like how I view it is like, kind of like, I've never been in the military, but like it's kind of how like the military views, or at least I maybe might be the Marine Corps, God, country, core. You know, like I believe conservatism does everything to protect the country, and it's a mindset that we have to preserve what we have and preserve our ideas for the future, and it's more than just like a political ideal, like, you know, it's because Donald was mentioning, like, to me it's not just about like money, it's not about the rich, it's not just about that, it's the whole idea of like preserving our way of life, like in every facet, not just in economics, not just in like religion, not just in like political gain or political games. It's more of like how we live as a country, like preserve our history. Hopefully we'll make better in our future with keeping the values that made this country, essentially.
Okay. Sam, same question. Definition of conservatism.
So I think universally, conservatism, it's kind of in the name. There is an idea to conserve or hold on to certain traditions, certain values that have been passed on. I think the general thinking of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thought process, like things like the family unit, right? The family unit's been a part of Western culture forever. So, they want to hold on to certain things like that. There's definitely a religious bend to conservatism. They tend to be more religious. Not always, obviously. There's there's non-religious conservatives out there. Generally, small government, open market thought process, though that can vary too, because you got your left and right, but you also have libertarian, authoritarian. So there's kind of a whole spectrum there. But yeah, it's just generally people that like to hold on to what they believe works, and sometimes that may, depending on the person's specific views, that may take the forms of things that people find objectionable, right? If they're not for, say, like gay marriage, right? That's obviously going to ruffle feathers with some people. So, it really just depends on the person. But overall, it's really just kind of holding on to things that person specifically believes is a good thing.
Okay. Donald, definition of conservatism.
We're doing like personal, right? Like how we feel.
Yeah.
Yep.
All of this is opinion. You don't have to go looking up a dictionary or anything.
Oh no, I was just fair enough. Okay. I mean, like Sam said, it's really all in the name, right? And in that, there's I kind of feel like too there's that old-fashioned American propaganda-driven machine that's behind that as well. Like stand up, salute the flag, pledge of allegiance, God, country, white picket fence, wife, 3 kids, a dog, that kind of stuff, right? And that's no one's fault or anything. It's just, like I said, it's like the American propaganda machine at work, that old-fashioned American propaganda machine at work. You know what I mean? And then on top of it, so you take that and then you get the people who will defend that because that's the way they were taught, or that's what they were raised to believe, or that's, how they feel, or whatever the case may be. Right. And that's pretty much it. It's just kind of fighting for what America says, like what that old timey, the American dream. There you go. That's what I'm looking for, right? It's like it's fighting for that American dream and keeping it, I guess, trying to keep it alive in some regards, no matter how hard it is, no matter if people are winning or failing at it or anything like that. So,
okay, so then, since I'm already with you, Donald, liberalism, how do you define that?
Ooh, we're going around the other way.
Well, yeah, because you're the liberal, so we're starting with liberalism. Yeah.
I think the same thing could be said. It's in the name, liberating, and in that it's kind of breaking the norm. To coin a phrase from Stained, breaking the cycle. That's like a newer way. Just it's liberating from, it's the opposite, right? So it's liberating from that white picket fence, American dream, house on an acre of land kind of thing. And it's a newer way, because I think, when you get that white picket fence, a lot of people will start, Christians and God and, and not Christians, and religion and God and all that stuff kind of comes with that white picket fence too. And it's separated from that. Liberalism is separated from that. It's liberating from that. It's liberating from the older American propaganda machine and more towards like a newer version of that. So,
okay. So Sam, define your version of liberalism.
So liberalism, I think at its core is a basically, I guess, rejection of the idea of sin, rejection of the idea of religious authoritarianism. Now, obviously, liberalism and what people think of it has really transformed, in the recent decades, right? Because the founding fathers at the time were considered liberal, and they held those core positions of, we don't need the church telling us what to do. We want a secular society, right? And that's still held true, I think, in modern times. But there's a lot more tacked on because those same founding fathers would hold, positions that would probably be considered very conservative. I imagine they weren't very big on LGBTQ, rights and all that. So I think, you have your core liberalism of just kind of humanism, I suppose, like live and let live, stop telling people what to do if they're not hurting anybody. And then depending on who you ask, it can also, entail a preference for a strong government, a strong federal government. They do tend to like things being regulated, specifically to, in the vein of protecting people from certain things, whether that's, they think like consumer protections, climate change, things like that. They're not very big free market. They do like to see the government step in a little more. Generally, again, you got your libertarian, authoritarian bends. Let's see. And I think that's really the biggest thing is kind of aiming for acceptance of lifestyles and not wanting to be told what to do by a higher power that they may or may not believe in. I think that's probably the biggest core of it right there.
Okay, so Joe, other side of the spectrum, you got to think about liberalism.
Right. No, like that's what I think in today's definition, of like how I would describe liberalism today is different than I was told 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Because I always thought when someone else said they were liberal, they always said it's free thought. No idea is a bad idea, right? That's how I always was told what it was. It was like I get to do whatever I like and think the way I want to think, like against the church, or for example, or I always thought it was like a free-minded like idealism, like there was less structure in the sense of like how you think, like conservatism is based on certain structures and certain way of thinking, like white picket fence. And I always thought liberalism was more of like, no one's going to tell me what to do. It was the free thinking mind. But I think today's liberalism is a lot different. I think for me, how I always see it, either on Twitter or on media, it's like a good idea for them as everything's a good idea as long as it's their idea. Like I honestly, the definition to me has changed so much that I don't even know if I could like answer that with an actual true belief. Like it's contorted in my opinion. It changed so much from even from when I was 20 to now that I'm 32. So I guess that's a non-answer.
What did Nixon used to call the liberals? Hippies and
right.
I forget the other one was, but because that is what I always saw the old view of liberalism to be, was just hippies, free love, and drugs.
Yeah, like John Lennon. Right. Well, like the old style of liberalism is, in my opinion, is fine. Be free, do whatever you like, open-minded. But I think today it's been contorted that I actually blame it on Trump. Like it was like the never Trump or liberal now. Like those type of people. I know it seems like I'm attacking them. Like those are the ones. Like no, it's everything. Even if he does something right, type of thing, it's wrong because he did it. That's where I think liberalism is today.
I think that's also a backlash too, from when Obama was in office. Obama, like the Republicans were very much that way as well when it came to Obama. And then when Trump got into office, I think, like if you take Trump's campaign out of the equation, I think that was the backlash towards Trump as well. So it was like, okay, we had to endure 8 years of this. Now it's your turn, So I think that's what that was, to be honest with you. I mean, but yeah, I'll leave it at that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think both sides, both parties have really widened this gulf between them to where they can never admit when the other party does something right now, because it's all team sports. It's always their team. Trump always bad, Obama always bad, Biden always bad.
Although admittedly, we all have a group have to agree that Biden isn't the best president right now, right?
Biden's trash.
Yeah. I get that the left was never going to vote for Trump, right? Like, I obviously hate the guy with a burning passion, but of all the people to prop up, they put some candidates up that I would not have minded, even if I didn't agree with them per se. I'm like, okay, well, they'll probably make a decent president. And they put old Corn Pop in office of all people. Like, wow. Just
he was a Muppet.
Yeah, he was there to appeal to remember Obama, remember the Obama years, everything was great, and people the Obama years, they all voted for that, and it's like, this man's brain is fried, he's gone.
And the sad thing is as far as Biden goes and everything, who else did they have? Clinton. Well,
as much as I hate the Clintons as a conservative, I would have taken Hillary over Biden.
Well, my point in saying that. But my point in saying that is, it's who do you have? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have that strong of a contender because Clinton lost I won't say miserably, but Clinton lost the first go around, and there's a lot of people who weren't, on her side. And then when she lost, she's running around talking about men told their wives not to vote for me because I'm a woman, and people bought into that.
You can't just admit she lost.
Yeah, exactly. And then you turn around and it's like, well, we can't do Clinton again. So we got, okay, who do we have left? Well, hey, we got this guy over here who ran with Obama and everyone liked him, right? And then all the memes went Uncle Joe and all that stuff when Obama was in office. That helped him. Yeah. That helped, soothe the pill, like
Obama voters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that's
what killed me though is when you look at the Democrat primaries for 2020. They had so many people. I think they set a record for the number of candidates in the primaries. There's so many people on that stage starting out, and a lot of them were, I think, decent contenders. But then what started happening is they started convincing people to drop out and then throw their support behind Biden. So even when you had candidates that were, Sanders was doing really well against Biden there for a while.
I think he got
that guy got. He just gets shafted every year.
Yeah.
Every time,
yeah, and you had some decent people, but one by one, people would drop out, and then all their votes would go. They would say, "Hey, I'm leaving, so vote for Biden. Vote for Biden."
They didn't want the votes separated,
right? And it's like, look, there's a number of people I would have seen on that stage that I would have preferred seeing in office than Biden, because at least their brains still work. At least they know where they are. I know it seems mean and petty, but it's a genuine concern.
No, I won't even say it's mean and petty, because my genuine concern is, truthfully, the country is being led by a 78-year-old man with dementia.
Yeah.
And he falls up the stairs when he gets on an airplane. And it's like, this is the best that we could offer. America, it's like the world is looking at us, and we went from the overglorified racism that was Trump to the guy who falls up the stairs, right? And we're telling the world, we're the greatest. Look at us. Look what we picked. 78-year-old who can't walk. We're awesome.
I do agree. I do believe that as much as I was a Trump supporter, he shouldn't run because of his age. I wouldn't want him to be the conservative nominee next election. So I agree with that sentiment for sure.
Yeah, too old up there, and you can see the difference between him when he first ran and him now. He's obviously
on that. I'm just saying on that point,
he's declining.
Yeah, he's gotten over the obvious edge of he's no longer what he was in the Obama.
He's not witty anymore. Yeah. He was witty. That's what won him the election. Was he was different.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was very counterculture.
Yeah,
people now saw the DNC as the machine, and in a lot of ways it is. Especially when you talk about who controls the news media, things like that. It is primarily Democrat controlled,
right?
And I think a lot of people felt they were being kind of ignored. They felt like they were the flyover states. Nobody cared about them. It was all the liberal bubble, and he tapped into that. He did a really good job tapping into that sentiment. And he did, even though obviously he's not always right, and he definitely made a lot of shit up and
Agreed.
Say that stuff up, and a lot of fake news and all that, as he liked to say. He did put a nice little microscope over these news, agencies too, and just point out just how much BS that they're peddling all the time. And unfortunately, it did convince a lot of people to trade out their BS for a lot of his BS too. Because I liked a lot of his policies, but God, that guy just needed to keep his mouth shut like 90% of the time. Because
that's crazy.
Fight with football players and stuff. Like, that's so beneath.
That's crazy. I think he would have won. I think he would have won this next election if he just shut up.
If he
just didn't talk.
Yeah, so if he lost the election like he did, if he hadn't gone so hard into the stolen election narrative and just refused to concede, even if the problem is, even if he believes in his soul that he was cheated, he did not have enough ground to prove it. And if you can't prove it, don't go off because it just makes you look unhinged. If he had just kind of gracefully bowed down and say, hey, I'll be back in 2024, I think he'd be a viable candidate for 2024. But after that, even people that supported him are like, no, man, even if it wasn't your intention,
it's what the result was.
A revolt at the Capitol, you still did. And you were careless enough to let that happen. I think it turned a lot of people off.
So Joe and I were talking before we went on. Ron DeSantis seems like he's going to be the front runner. I agree with Joe on. It looks like if he does officially do it, right now he is the front runner. And because Joe and I have both seen things where basically they squabble or talk about each other in their live events. So it seems like that's the pattern we're going to. But before we get to Ultra Marcus's question, I want to simple yes or no, just so the audience knows, and if you have any political experience. Question 6 asks, have you ever formally studied political science and or ran for political office? Joe, have you? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Sam, have you?
Nope.
And Donald, have you?
Yes.
Okay, so since you've said yes, which one, political science or run for office?
I ran for office.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, it lasted all of 2 weeks, and then I was basically removed because my significant other works for the state. And it was viewed as a conflict of interest.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go to Marcus's question here, foreign policy, and I'll start with Joe here. Do you think it's going where you would want it?
No. I mean, no, not at all. And I think it's for both parties. So, I think we need to, as America, we need to stay out of things that don't involve us. And that's for both, Bush went to war in Iraq. This Ukraine stuff, I mean, I feel sorry for Ukraine, but we shouldn't be sending billions of dollars over there. So I think we just need to work on that, as a general. As the two examples, I think we meddle in too much things with other people.
Okay. Sam, again, just like Joe, keep it a short answer, but thoughts on American foreign policy, and is it going where you want it to go?
So I'm not inherently against foreign intervention, especially, if it's for, I guess our own benefit. But I think we're very bad at it. I think whenever you see us go into a country, we leave it worse off than, where we started. I mean, look at Afghanistan. We spent 20 years.
We are spectacular.
The Taliban are more powerful now than they were when we went in there. We gave them all this stuff. That is the worst pullout I've ever seen. And maybe next to Libya. And that's the problem is we go in there, America, we're here to save you, and then we just leave it in shambles, and we let warlords take over, and human trafficking and slave trade start up. So we're really bad at seeing things through. And I also think our reasons for intervention a lot of time is very dishonest and very skeezy. We talk about Iraq, right? How the WMDs, we all remember Bush's WMDs.
It's always been money driven.
Yeah, and there's always some secret, they want to protect oil interests or something. I'm not against our what is it? NATO commitment, right? Where it's like, hey, if someone attacks our allies, we have a duty to protect our ally. I think that's a good, virtuous thing to do. Because we are, as much as people hate it, we are kind of, as a Team America World Police or whatever. And that's because of the aftermath of World War II, right? All the European countries like, hey, America, protect us. That's why we have this massive, massive military we have. And, we have it. A lot of people don't like that we have it, but we do have it. And if we have it, we should use it for the betterment of, mankind, protect nations from hostile takeover, things like that. And, defend our interests, but not necessarily go in there and screw other people over to, I guess, increase our stake in the world. So I'm not against it inherently, but I think we need to do it for the right reasons and do a much better job. Like, I know people wanted to leave, say Afghanistan, we've been there a long time, but we didn't accomplish our mission, right? Like we left and the Taliban steamrolled and just took it right back. And how many people died for no real reason? Like, what did we accomplish? Like, we killed bin Laden, but now it's just some other guy in charge. It didn't help anything.
Okay, Donald, Ultra Marcus's question on the bottom of the screen.
I think that the last time that we kept our nose out of it, we got forcefully brought into it anyway with World War II. And I think ever since then, there's been this innate, I won't call it fear, but I'll say fear for lack of a better term, right? Of if we don't do something, then we're just going to get dragged into it anyway. So screw it. We might as well do something. But I think also too, the problem is, the last time that we did something, like Sam was saying, the Taliban, well, I mean, that's ISIS is our fault. Taliban's our fault, and then when you look at the Ukraine, the president of the Ukraine's over here saying, look, we don't want your money. We want your soldiers. And Biden's like, you want some more money? No, we want your soldiers. Yeah, we'll give you some more money. We're not asking for money, dip. We're asking for soldiers, and so we're not doing that good of a job. And I think it could be done a hell of a lot better. And, I think that because of that, we're viewed as like the bigger brother of the world, right? We are the country that, somebody punches England in the face. England comes, I'm going to go get my brother. And then here we come to back up England, right? I think we are very much that. And if we are that, then we need to live up to that, we should definitely stop playing nice with somebody like Russia or whatever. Like, okay, you punch the Ukraine. We're gonna punch you back with a tank through your through the front of your house, through the drywall. You know what I mean? That's what it should be. We're gonna punch you back. We're gonna punch you with some brass knuckles on. But we don't have that. And as far as like giving foreign aid and stuff, it's one of those things, right? So if we're viewed as the leader of the world, we should be tough enough to be that leader, but also be tough enough to be gentle at the same time, right? Go over there, Ukraine, and I'll probably keep bringing that up. That's the most,
It's the most recent.
Right, most recent. Give soldiers to the Ukraine. Go over there and let Russia know we are America, like plant that flag in the middle of Moscow, say, fuck you, do something about it.
Okay, I think you meant we're America.
Okay, yeah. But like I said, in the middle of Moscow, plant that flag, make them salute it, make Russia salute it. And then, but while doing that, feed their people, make sure they're okay. And, you know what I mean? Like, do it right. And when people need our help, help them. It's really that simple. And don't be so deaf to it. Like I said with Biden, we need soldiers. Oh, here's some more money. No, we didn't need money. We needed soldiers. Yeah, I'll give you some more money, buddy. Don't worry about it. And it's like,
money. I think in the case of going against somebody like Russia, there is the added dimension of nukes, right? And that is something that we do.
Escalation,
really
yeah.
Tiptoe around, right? Which I definitely get the desire to just want to go in there and like just send our soldiers in there full force and knock the Russians out. But Putin he's aging, he's ailing. A lot of people saying he's dying of cancer. He's desperate to see the Soviet Union, reinstated at all costs. I wouldn't put it past him, right? If he's like, man, I got 2 weeks left to live, like, screw it, I'm going to nuke the U.S. Like, he's not going to be around to see the aftermath of it. And we do have some missile defenses, but I mean, all it takes is one. We miss one, and there goes like a giant crater where a major U.S. city used to be.
State.
So that is scary, and I think that's why we have to be very wary when we're dealing with a country like Russia, China, Iran, anyone that's got very good nuclear capabilities.
I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Is like when it comes to war, what happens at the end? It's two old white guys sitting down at a table talking. That's what it should be at the beginning. That's exactly.
I agree, and we should never get to the point. In the first place.
the reason why it never gets to that in the beginning is because war is also a money machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it is. It's money. It's money. Like
a lot of people,
like
the bear
Afghanistan and Iraq was for oil. It was about money. Like I'm just saying, not to interject. It's every war, except for maybe World War II, was about money. Like everything, like any war America's been in about, besides maybe World War II, was about money.
Yeah.
Okay. So starting with Joe, when you consider a candidate, it doesn't matter for what office, what are you looking for that will get your vote?
First is like lowering, like if you promote like lowering taxes. If you I had another thought too. Small government, like I don't want you to interfere with my life as little as possible, in the form of taxes or like in any other form, regulations. Like if you're going to make it harder for me to have a job, type of thing, with regulations or, more fees, more taxes to go to my employer, so it's harder for them to employ me. Really, I mean, I'm thinking of that even just state level, federal level, also as well as taxes, and like, I believe in like the union. So like I do think having like open borders hurts America, like to the core. I think it does. Like, you're just bringing, like I believe in open borders, but I believe in right ways of doing things. Like you don't see other countries letting people go in and out of their country. You can't go into Canada freely. You need a passport. You need ID. You need everything. You need to be vaccinated to go to Canada. They'll shoot you on the spot if you try to go in there without being vaccinated. As nice as Canadian people are, but like the southern border, like you can't be letting people come in like that. Like what about the people that don't live on the border that come from other countries that have to get a passport, have to pass like screenings for diseases? Like you have to go through all that process to come to America in any form, especially to be a citizen. And you were just going to let people, that's a major like high level like presidential reasoning is like what I look for, among with like taxes and job creation and stuff like that.
Okay, Sam, same question. What helps you determine who is worthy of your vote?
So for me, it's 100% about policy. I know elections are very often a popularity contest, and a candidate's, charisma, their personality can make or break their chances. But for myself, I really don't care about their personality. Like, I don't care if they're likable or not. I care about what they're going to do, because at the end of the day, I'm very pragmatic. Like, what are you going to do to make the country better? And, I look at things like infrastructure is a big one. Our infrastructure is not good. It's, we're getting way behind other countries. I look at, social issues to an extent. I think that presidents insert themselves into social issues a little too much these days. I think, really, they need to be like kind of the robot, just dictating like financial policies, things like that, and let like other politicians deal with, things like that. I'm not against taxation, right? I'm not saying that things like all taxation is theft, because I think inherently as humans, we're way too selfish to just freely give, because people that are like hardcore, like capital L libertarians, they'll say like, oh, there shouldn't be any taxes. People will just fund things. I'm like, I don't know about you, but I'm not nearly responsible enough with my money to like, make sure I'm setting aside enough to repair the roads and stuff. So I think you do have to have some sort of centralized body for, taking care of things like your infrastructure, schools. Schools are an important one. Our schools are terrible right now. So I think there's definitely a balance that needs to be struck. I don't want to live in a country where like 75% of my income goes to taxation, because you'll never get out of living in like a tiny house with a single car and being able to do anything for yourself. I do believe in the upward mobility that a generally capitalist, form of economy and all that brings. But I also believe that we need to balance out with some regulation. I don't think we should be just letting people run wild, especially, regulation is kind of like a scary word, because some regulation is just utter garbage and BS. But I lean more toward like consumer protection, right? I don't think any business should be able to like take advantage of people or screw people over, and things like that. So I'm always looking for kind of that very 90s era centrist kind of candidate, which is becoming more and more rare as both parties just keep moving toward the extremes. And I just want somebody that can get the job done, and not somebody that is voted on for purely ideological reasons, or how much people like the way they speak.
Okay. So Donald, what is your ideal candidate?
Somebody that doesn't use buzz terms off of Twitter, or somebody that won't sit there and say something just to get a crowd riled up. And somebody who won't use, like, I guess, for example, they won't get up there and they say something stupid like, trans people shouldn't have rights. And then that starts this whole debate, right? Like, and then that feeds one side versus the other side, because I feel like you get up there, you have an idea of what's wrong with the country when you start running for politics, whether it's mayor, governor, president, senate, whatever it is, right? You have an idea. And the thing is what's hard is the people who get up there now, they've already had their chance, right? Biden was Congress for how long? And the stuff that he said and did and everything.
7 years or something. It's crazy.
Right. So we already know how big of a scumbag he is, right? So, but he still got president and everything else. So if somebody got up there who had no presidential ties, no political background, no nothing, and Trump got up there, Trump had a political background. He would go on people's talk shows like Oprah for the last 30 years and talk about what he would do if he was president, right? So even in that regard, I want somebody to basically just come out grassroots swinging and give all those people up there who wear a suit. I want somebody, if they want my vote.
Movie about this? I swear we had a movie about this in the last decade.
I have no idea, but I'll say this: if you want my vote, get up there in some jeans and a t-shirt. Stop wearing the suit. Stop wearing the tie. Stop slicking your hair back. Just get up there, be an American, and be a human being. Because when you get up there and you're in a suit, now you're corporatized. You're owned. Somebody who got up there in just jeans and a t-shirt, dirty blue jeans, dirt under their fingernails, and they got up there and they spoke what they spoke their mind. They meant what they said. And they said what they mean, and they weren't afraid to tell everybody else up there to shut up. You've had your chance for 30 years. What are you doing to fix it? Nothing. You just want the bigger payday. Just be brutally honest, man. That's what would get me to vote for that person at that point. So
okay. So moving on to question 8, and we'll start with Donald, since we did a whole episode on this. What is your opinion of your state's government current political positions?
Trash.
Tell us how you really feel.
I mean, good God, dude. It's hot. It's so hot here. It's like a dumpster fire. That's what it is.
I think your biggest concern might be the grid itself, because you do rolling blackouts now.
No, so they've kind of been threatening that, and the civilians of Texas, or the citizens of Texas, have been like, "Oh, you want us to shut it off?" It hasn't been under 110 degrees in the last month and a half. So Yeah, trash. And like I said in the last time I did this with you, our governor let people freeze to death because the grid. They had an opportunity to fix it. They knew the freeze was going to happen, and the company who owns the grid gave him a crap ton of money to basically look the other way. So, I mean, it shouldn't be anything new, whatever. He does the thing where, 12 kids or 1,200 kids, whatever it is dead. That gets announced, and then 5 minutes later, he's on Twitter holding a rifle the size of the state of Texas, smiling about it. It's just like, dude, too tone deaf, just too stupid. I don't like.
Senator ran away when the power went out.
Yeah. Ted Cruz ran to Mexico because it was warm there, and he gave the excuse of, "Oh, I was just looking out for my family." Yeah, with my tax dollars, asshole. Like, I mean, just Jesus. I can't. And I've made and I think I've said this before. As far as our governor goes, I can't stand anybody who can't stand up for themselves and is so easily pushed around by others. It's a wheelchair joke. He's in a wheelchair. So, I mean, I can't deal with that guy.
Okay. Okay, Sam, you're in Kentucky. Thoughts about your state's current political positions?
So Kentucky is an interesting one. I think the stereotype of Kentucky is that it's like a super deeply red state and everyone's, walking around shotgun on their porch and everything, sipping their bourbon, which obviously there is a lot of that. But
it's because it's Kentucky. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. The real political climate is actually very, very mixed and very stratified because we have a Democratic governor, Andy Beshear for Ultramarcus, Democratic governor who's, very strongly Democrat. But then we also have Republican senators. The House is pretty mixed. So you get a lot. You have your very rural areas that are, God's country or God country guns, but then you also have Lexington, Louisville, other areas that are way more blue. Louisville is incredibly, incredibly blue. Would definitely give California a run for its money. So that's good on the one hand because you don't have over-representation of one ideology over the other. I think states that go too hard in any one direction tend to suffer for it. The downside to it, though, is that means there's a lot of fighting, right? People can't agree on stuff. You get a lot of things getting vetoed back and forth. I know, like the abortion bill has been getting juggled around. It's blocked, and then it's not blocked, and the governor vetoed it, but then the House reinstated it, and it does make it hard to get things done. A lot like the U.S. Congress, where they spend more time trying to score points on each other and get sound bites of each other than actually solving anything or passing anything. Personally, I hate parties. I just don't know what we could replace them with because I think a party will always serve its interest before anyone else's. Kentucky is an interesting state because there's a lot more disagreement within the state than I think people would imagine.
Okay. Joe, we both live in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And I have forgotten our governor's name, despite I remember seeing him. Yes, Mike DeWine. I voted for him. So, yeah. So, basically, what is your opinion on our state government?
Honestly,
I was answering Marcus's question. Yes, Mike DeWine. There you go.
Right, Mike DeWine. I think he was asking for Donald's governor, though. It was.
I posted that. It's Greg Abbott.
Greg, okay. Honestly, Ohio's government, I guess you could say I'm biased because it's mainly conservative. But if you look at everything Ohio has, right, our jobs are we have insane amount of jobs, good jobs. The industry in Ohio is awesome. We're getting in Columbus area. We're getting the whole computer chip building down there. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I remember the announcement.
You're right. Yeah, we're about to have that in the next few years. Amazon has so many shipping facilities in Ohio.
Yeah, there's 2 near us.
It's insane, and there's more in Columbus. Our infrastructure for Ohio for growing the economy here is insane, and it's great. And the cost of living versus other places, maybe Kentucky's probably the average, same with us, but I'm sure Texas is way more expensive than us. but like our cost of living compared to like other states are way cheaper, and our pay is still gradually going up a little bit better. But on like a more of like a higher level, like DeWine, I think for like his policies, I think he was kind of in the middle. Like during the pandemic, he wasn't like, I think he would just wanted to get reelected, but I think during the pandemic he did a pretty good job. He was like, you know what, we're not gonna be, you know, rah rah. We're gonna keep everything open. I think he did a pretty good job on balancing that, which is crazy. I'm surprised he was able to do that. I'm surprised he even decided to do that. So I think
Which is funny. My mom, a Democrat, was like, "Yes, I like Mike DeWine."
yeah, I think Ohio structurally is very well. Like if you're looking for a job and a good place to raise your kids, Ohio is a great place. And I don't want to tell people that because I don't want people that don't want that kind of mentality to come here. But if you want to make decent pay, live in a decent place, crime, like, you know, there's always crime in inner cities. Like Cleveland's not the greatest, but if you live in a suburb of Cleveland, it's not too bad. And Columbus, I would move to Columbus in a heartbeat right now. I love that city. But yeah, I think Ohio's government of Ohio should say exactly how it is for, if you're going to look at it from a non-social issues. If you just look at how well Ohio is doing and how on the path we're going through economics, and I think it's great personally.
So
I hate the weather change.
right. So Marcus has this question here. If you think your government make a good president, and I'm going to say this: Mike DeWine is also too old.
Yes.
I don't think anybody over he's over 70 now. I don't think he should be just like 72.
If you're saying like if you're taking age out of the equation, I think he'd be good. I think he'd be okay.
Yeah, because he is a kind of a left-leaning Republican,
right?
So he's capable of, and he has shown that he is able to reach across those lines, which is why my mother, who has been a lifelong Democrat, likes him.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if we take age out of the equation, he would be a great quote unquote centrist or moderate president.
I think back to like our first question. I think the reason why, or it's maybe a second question. I think another reason why I'm conservative is because Ohio, you know, I was always told we're a conservative state and a red state, and I liked how we are going. You know how like right now, like I said, the economy's, even though we're in a recession, you can get a job anywhere in Ohio making $15 to $20 plus an hour, and your cost of living it did increase, but it's not like New York. Like you can't, like New York's prices for anything is through the roof. So like I guess that was a main reason why I think after thinking about it, like why I like Ohio so much and why I'm the way I am.
Yeah, I was raised that Ohio was a swing state, and looking at the way the elections went most recently, I still believe we are to be a swing state.
It came down to us the last two elections, so I'm not arguing with that.
Yeah. Sam, answering Marcus's question, do you think that your government would make a good president?
So I haven't lived in Kentucky very long. Actually, in 2 days, it'll mark 3 years. So I don't know Bashir very well. He just got elected in from like the incumbent. So it's really hard for me to say as far as my own governor. I know he probably would not be a very uniting president because whatever his policy, like I said, he's like hardcore Democrat. So the Republicans hate him. I mean, all they do is just talk, crap about him. So he's probably not going to pull people in from across the aisle, which in my own opinion, I think, excuse me, I think is a very valuable trait for a president. You want a president that most people can get behind. That president that's like, well, I don't like your party, but I like you, I don't think he has that. So as far as, being someone that can help bring the country together or get people on board or even be productive and not encounter too much resistance in their policymaking, I don't think he'd be very good for that because he seems to be very staunchly on one side of the aisle.
Okay, Donald, I feel like I know the answer to your question, to this question, but I'm going to let you say it anyway. What do you think about your governor's chances of being a good president?
Absolutely not. I think he'd have to remove the Bible out of his ass and replace it with the Constitution in order to do that, but I don't think he can.
Okay.
Fair.
So, moving on to the...
Quick and decisive.
I like it.
Right.
I did not expect it to be announced on Friday, which was yesterday, but apparently it has officially been announced that there is a new third political party, and
The Future Party, right?
Forward party.
The Forward Party.
Forward Party. That's it.
Forward, yeah, the Future Party would have made more sense, but so
Isn't it Jesse Ventura? I think I'm jumping ahead. I'm sorry. Isn't it Jesse Ventura and what's his name? The Asian guy. I forgot his name.
Andrew
Yang.
Yang from New York, and former Texas governor. And I forgot her name entirely. Anyway, so they officially announced yesterday. Although this has been a work in progress since 2021. So this is essentially, this is all I'm going to show of their website, is their priorities. Now, this is a party that is, how do I put this? You can be Republican, you can be Democrat, you can be conservative, you can be liberal, you can be libertarian, you can be reform, you can be green, you can be whatever party you're part of. What they want to do is get people who, no matter their belief systems, all agree on primarily three things, and cooperation. Because anybody who's aware, the Constitution was built on the understanding that, one, it's a living document and could be updated as needed. But two, that different opinions on situations, compromise can still be made and move the government forward. So that is what Forward Party is focusing on, that you can, no matter your beliefs, get together with other people and come up with some neutral ground where everybody's like, you know what, that works, because that is how the government is actually supposed to work. Yeah. So there are three primary platform priorities are, of course, free people, thriving communities, and a vibrant democracy, which is actually along the lines of what I just mentioned. Now, the question here, which is question 9. So, Marcus, if you had that other question on this, that was it. Go ahead and post it in the chat. Any thoughts on a third party with this type of platform? And we're going to start with Joe. What are you just seeing it for the first time, or maybe hearing about it yesterday? What are your immediate thoughts?
I didn't hear about it until this is the first time I read anything about it here. I think it's a great idea. I would be one to even vote for this party and to support this party. But I think the biggest problem we're going to have with a third party is people are the Democrat and the Republican parties are going to be like, well, if you vote for this, you're just taking away from us. And that's what usually happens when, like, Bernie Sanders, that's why Bernie Sanders didn't win, in my opinion, because they had to eliminate him, because that would have, during this last election, it would have taken away from Joe Biden if he would have ran as like an independent at the last minute or something. And so I think it's great, and I support the ideal that is here, but I don't think it would ever come into fruition, unfortunately. I think our system is too rigged to separate the two-party system.
Okay.
I like the idea 100%.
Sam, your thoughts on the Forward Party?
So I hadn't heard of it before you sent the list of questions here the other day, but I have seen more on it since then. I mean, like Joe said, I love the idea of it. You know, me being someone who, you know, people would call a centrist, obviously this is very appealing to me, right? It's cast aside your differences, let's work on common sense solutions, do what works, make the communities better, kind of get back to, you know, being one united America, which is something that I think is going to be the death of this country, is the division. Because while we're all over here taking shots at each other, our enemies, and I'm not using that term hyperbolically, like people that want to see us fail and impose a horrific system of government across the world, they want this, right? They want the division. I mean, we saw how Russia was like putting ads up on Facebook that was like giving opposite positions, right? Like, oh, BLM's bad. Oh, white supremacy everywhere. They were putting both of them out because they were just driving division. So I love this idea. Yang, I was talking about candidates that were, you know, potentially much better than Joe Biden. I would have voted for Andrew Yang 1,000 times before I voted for Joe Biden. He's somebody that, even though I may not agree with him on every single little policy stance, he's doing everything for the right reasons, I think. You know, he's somebody that really, truly cares and really, really wants, you know, to try to bring this country back to kind of its prime, and I'm all for that. I don't know too much about the other people that are involved. Yang's the one that I know the most. But yeah, I mean, their mission statement's great. Like Joe, I am a little skeptical that they can overcome the hegemony that our two parties have, because they have spent many decades building that up intentionally so that no one else can ever break through. I fully support them if they have a shot. Like, I'd love to see them gain widespread support and legitimacy, and maybe one day we'll get a third party, because I'm not crazy about parties in general. Like I said, I'd love to see a world where we just have candidates and, there's no overarching ideology that somebody has to conform to, and they can all just have their own thoughts instead of being this, groupthink mentality where they can't speak out. But if we can't get rid of parties, then I think it helps us to have more. Like the UK's got a bunch of parties. I used to follow UK politics quite a bit because a political commentator I listened to was from the UK. So he mixed a lot of American with, UK politics. And I like the fact that they have more than one option, and you do see people from different parties get elected sometimes. They're a little more balanced. So I'm all for it. I don't know if it'll get off the ground. A lot of these things get shut down pretty hard by the establishment parties because they don't want anyone challenging them. But God, I think we need to get rid of the Democrats and Republicans entirely, like as parties, because they care about their party. That's all that matters. They have a narrative, and they will shift stance on anything if it becomes politically expedient. Remember how big D Democrats were like, cops bad, ACAB, less police. And then that proved to be disastrous for the cities that it was implemented. And they're like, oh, we support our police so much. I'm like, wow, you are spineless. Like, you really will just say anything. So I think this is good. We'll see how it turns out.
Okay. Donald, your thoughts on the Forward Party?
I will say this. When Jesse the Body Ventura moved over and became Jesse the Mind Ventura, he was the only person to defeat Vince McMahon in court. With that being said, the joking aspect of it out of the way, I just had to say that, right? Because wrestling nerd or whatever. But truthfully, Andrew Yang had my vote. I mean, there's like 75% I agree with Andrew Yang on. And Jesse Ventura, when he was governor, I agreed with a lot of stuff that he implemented and wanted to do and stuff like that. And I respect him because he's always told it like it is. He's always gotten in whoever's face, finger in the face type of situation from Jesse Ventura. And even at his age, he still does it. He was on Chris Jericho's podcast last week and a half ago, and talking about the Forward Party. And I mean, he was laying into Jericho hard, and he was in the studio, Chris Jericho's studio, on his podcast. And he was, why I hate Republicans, Chris, January 6th, Chris, no one apologized to me, Chris. And he's laying into him really hard. And Jericho's just kind of like, yeah, just defeated kind of sounding. And I respect anybody who unapologetically does that and doesn't do it for clicks, doesn't do it for profit, just does it. And that's exactly what he does. And I mean, this already has my attention. It really does, because as a Democrat who hasn't voted since 2016, just because of the people they put in front of me, and they're like, hey, vote. And I'm like, no, I don't think so, Scooter. This definitely has my attention 100% because of the people who are in it and trying to get it going and put legs underneath it and stuff. So
I believe the other co-founder was Ann Richards of the Forward Party.
Yes, Ann Richards. Yep, she was, governor of Texas, or
governor.
Yeah.
So. Okay. So Marcus had a question. We're going to start with Donald. The 22nd Amendment, or the 22nd Amendment, I should say. 22nd. Where did that come from? 22nd Amendment is it's the thing that it was instated because I want to say FDR, that limited presidential office to 2 terms of no more than 8 years, although you can get like 12 years, or no, you can get, I think, at most 10 years if somebody dies within the first 2 years of office.
It's 16.
No. So, okay, I'm going to explain this. Let's say JFK died in the first 2 years of office, prior to the third year starting.
Oh, you get to
And
finish out the term and then do two. You can do 2 more terms.
You get 2 years to finish the term, and then you can get elected twice more to serve
Right.
at least 10 years. But the 22nd Amendment says elected for no more than 2 terms or 8 years. Do you think that should be abolished, or do you think 2 terms is perfect, Donald?
I think when it was established, I think it was an unprecedented thing for him to be elected. Was it 3 times in a row? So that was super unprecedented at that time.
We had like somebody, I think it was FDR was 4 times, and he died during his 4th term.
Yeah. And so I think that was unprecedented. I do agree with it because we would have, Jesus, man, we would have had another 4 years of Bush 2. Good God, could you imagine the nonsense that would have created?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I did not hate GW.
W.
W.
Too funny.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate people. It's just not in me, but
well, let's boil it down. Marcus says, well, how about we just say, should there be term limits? Now, Joe and I, before we started,
yes.
we actually said yes, it should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that goes to what I was getting into too, is like that should be for Congress, that should be Senate, that should be governor, that should be all across the board.
Every office in the land that is voted by the people. Everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything.
If it involves politics, and involves political office, it should be termed, and that's it. Because you can end up doing a lot more damage than you could ever do good, just from being, if you're the greatest politician ever, you're voted, your approval rating for your first 3 terms is 100% of the country, then you become out of touch, and you think you're doing good, but you're really not, because you're so far removed, so far out of touch. Then you need to go. You need to be voted out, so, or you need to have that limit, so.
Okay, Sam, same question.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There should be term limits. The one little specific of the 22nd Amendment where it's like, if they serve 2 years of somebody else's term, then they can only get elected once. That I could loosen up on that a little bit, give them that second one and then call it good. That's not too bad. But in general, yes, term limits. I think we should absolutely have term limits for Congress, all of those offices, because a lot like what Donald was saying, you just become out of touch, right? Washington is not the rest of the world. It's so far removed from everything. And you're going to see these people, these career politicians, how awkward they are, right? When they try to relate to you. And they really don't understand the needs of, your average family that's, coming up now, as opposed to 4 decades ago when they got in office. Right. So I think that is important to have somebody that can truly understand what the populace is going through now, not 40, 50 years ago when everything was very different. So yeah, I think we should really expand on the Second Amendment and make Congress have term limits, which is unfortunate because the people that have to vote on that are the people you're setting term limits on, and they're never going to do it, right? They like that cushy job staying in power until they're so old that they basically have to leave. So I don't know how we get around that.
We use our Second Amendment, we pick up arms, and we take our country back.
I think that.
No, I think I just became best friends with the liberal.
Well,
no, sign me up.
Back up.
It's the same thing with all the insider trading, right? Most people are not okay with congressmen.
You know the fine for insider trading for Congress. You know what it is? Like $500.
Yeah, it's stupid. Like,
So
they're not going to
it's
stop
just
making millions when they got to pay $500 to do it.
Well,
Yeah.
you think
But
that
the problem is they're the ones that have to vote to stop it. They're never going to do it.
Right.
and you think that $500 you think back then think about when it was initiated. What was Congress pays back then? What, $500 for the year? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's definitely scary. Now, what do they get paid? Something like $100,000 a year each in
I
taxes.
think the average is like $250.
I think it
Or
needs to be
okay.
percentage.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
$250,000 a year on top of whatever they get from whatever company and lobbying and everything else, man. $500. That's probably what they spend on lunch, man, every day. Like, Jesus Christ.
They spend
Especially
a
in
lot.
DC, it's
That's
not cheap
accurate.
there. Anyway, Joe, answer the question. Term limits.
Absolutely. I don't even think it needs to even be a drawn out answer. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Has anybody else found it weird that a guy in the United Kingdom is providing the best questions?
No, because me and Ultra Marcus have had political conversations before, and he is very much American history nerd, very much so.
It's funny. So Dennis Moulton, who is also a YouTuber that Donald and Sam and I know, he was like, "Oh, it's going to turn into a heated debate. Everything is just going to go off the rails." I'm like, "This is
Respect is everything.
Yeah, this is perfect."
Yeah.
Like, if we do
Respect.
something like this again, I want you three back. This is the most mellow. It didn't get yelly. It actually was a little bit funnier than I anticipated, so it worked out rather nicely.
Respect goes a long
I can
way.
make it. I can shift it to yelly if you want. I
Okay.
get real loud real quick. It's just
I've heard Joe like yell. So yeah, we're good.
I'll tell you what. I'll send you like a $50 gift card if you can get me angry on stream. I am.
Oh
Challenge
my god!
accepted.
I kind of want to say challenge accepted, but this is not the place for it.
Right.
Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is it for the questions I had. Now I'm going to give everybody a chance for a closing statement, starting with Joe. Kind of like in your headspace, what are you hoping for the future? So I think that will be our final point for today. So go ahead, Joe.
Honestly, I it ties on. I don't know if it was Sam who said it when we're talking about the Forward Party. Is I do think we need unity in this country. Like back in, I mean, I know I was only 11, but back in 2001 when supposedly the terrorist attack on America, at that point, at least that was taught to me in history because I was only 11 then. But at that point, like even comedians were making out jokes and everything, and they said we fight with each other until someone else tries to pick on one of us. You know what I mean? Like it went away from we might not agree, and the only reason we even like argue is because we're bored. But as soon as someone else attacks you, and I disagree with Donald on a lot of things probably, but as soon as someone who is not American attacks him, I have his back. You know what I mean? We need to get to that point again where, for example, this Marcus guy you said is from the Ukraine. If he would have came in to attack Donald and then he some form of way, physical, even verbal, I want to have Donald's back because he's an American. He's my brother in a sense, I think that's where we need to get back to. We need to get back to that where it's we can have our differences, but it's us before them.
I want to piggyback on that real quick.
Well, you might as well just give your answer, Donald.
That's it. No. I'm done.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but just real quick because I'm a little older than you. Just going off of what you said, you're 11 in 2001, so I'm a little older than you. And I remember when 9/11 happened, they would show footage. I'm talking Fox, CNN, MSNBC, all of them. Right? They would show footage and there would be people, different ethnicities, different culture, different race, different income, different everything. They're standing on all of these bridges wherever they were. They're all flying the American flag. We're all united. We're all tearful. We all had that same pit in our stomach of, oh, what just happened? But as soon as that pit went away, it got filled with the rage and anger of, fuck it, let's go do something about this. And we all did that as Americans. Like it all happened the same way. Now that division is there because it's just like, God, dude, you say something on Twitter and it like, when this opened, I said, I'm a liberal who's pro guns. I'm very pro Second Amendment. I would be lambasted on Twitter. You're not a real liberal. You're not a this. You're opposed. Da da da. Blah blah blah. Think about what happened at da 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 da. And it's like, dude, I get it. I don't say that in the sense of screw those little kids. I say that in the sense of if somebody breaks down my front door with a shotgun, I should have the right to defend my home with something that's equally as powerful or stronger than what he's bringing to make sure that me and mine survive. Right. It's from that. And there is a sense of, there's a huge degradation. There's a huge hole. There's a huge separation, whatever you want to call it, in the country. And I do agree with Joe that it does need to be filled, and it's avoided and does need to be brought together.
Sam.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, same train of thought. I hate that it takes a national tragedy or a world war to get everybody to put their differences aside.
Yeah,
to be able to capture that feeling, that post 9/11 feeling, post Pearl Harbor feeling, and keep that. Now, obviously, doesn't mean everyone's going to agree on everything, but we're so obsessed with focusing on the differences and not realizing that we have more in common than we have differences. I mean, I saw that called out in a little mission statement there for the Forward Party, but it's true. Any differences you can find between any two people or any two groups of people, there are more similarities. And we have this weird obsession with picking out the differences rather than just saying like, hey, look, you're different from me, I'm different from you, but we're still people, we're still Americans, everything. So I'd love to find a way to really bring us back together, because I think this is, I wouldn't say the most polarized we've ever been. Obviously, there's been civil wars and everything, but the most we've been polarized in a very long time. I feel like we were really, I think we peaked in like the 90s as far as a country being together.
Yeah, looking at the history, that makes sense.
There really wasn't a lot of fighting. People were not very politically involved at the time because there wasn't much of a reason to be. It was like small policy differences here and there. Democrats and Republicans were pretty similar overall. But now everything is just it's ugly. And unfortunately, we're getting not just parties, but people becoming increasingly militant, right? When you try to say, hey, we should get along, like, no, it's not the same. I can't get along with somebody that believes this. I can't believe they literally wish I was dead. I'm like, well, I think you're being probably a little hyperbolic there. And I don't know what the solution is, unfortunately. I think other than getting politicians, candidates that have that unifying message, that stop, because even Biden was like, I'm going to be here. I don't care if you voted for me, didn't vote for me. I'm going to be the unifier. And then all he does is just bash Republicans all the freaking time. We're like, that's helping. That's helping Joe, really.
Right.
Because they all want to get those points. They want to be seen as the virtuous good one and demonize the other side. I'm like, this is going to get us nowhere but just social, political turmoil. And it's going to make countries that, regardless of any negative opinion you have about your state or your country, there's countries out there that are far, far worse than anything will ever be. And they're just waiting for us to collapse so they can just basically steamroll this place and say like, oh, well, we own this now. This is ours. And you're going to live our way of life. Criticize the president, you'll disappear. Not like something, we'll kill your whole family, So, yeah, it worries me. It does. But I really hope for a day when we can get past this and, kind of go back to being a country, work on bettering itself together,
Okay. And that is the time we have for today. Thank you all for watching, particularly Marcus with all those great questions. If you are interested in the Forward Party website, there is a link there. You can actually join as a referral by me. Oddly enough, they're doing this weird thing where you can meet Andrew Yang. I'm not interested in meeting him personally, but apparently all I need is 20 people to sign up. And this sounds like an advertisement. It's not. Trust me, I am not interested. But I like the idea of people of different viewpoints coming together and participating in something. And you don't have to give up if you're a Democrat or Republican, etc. So I of course signed up. With that said, thank you, Joe, Donald, and Sam for doing this. If we do another one, hopefully we'll have more people watching. And nothing against Marcus. Marcus was excellent.
There'd be more arguments if we talked about football.
Well, no, the next one will be with sports, and then the one after that would be religion. I think that'll work, right?
Football sucks. Go Cowboys. Come at me.
Go Browns.
There.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Two of us. All right.
I wouldn't even have anything to say. It would just be you guys arguing because I don't watch.
Does Kentucky even have a team? It's a Steelers. No, what is it? Steelers is the closest team you have.
Cincinnati
Yeah.
Bengals.
Oh, Bengals is there too. Yeah.
Go Oilers.
Yeah,
Go
I stopped
Oilers.
following sport a long time ago.
Well, anyway, how do we put it, Joe? We'll sending the Steelers to the Porcelain Bowl. How was that go?
I don't remember.
I don't. Yeah, somebody said it yesterday.
How big of a Browns fan am I? Right. Season ticket holder. That's how big. That's all I have.
I gotta go drop the Cosby kids off. Is that it?
Mildly racist, but sure. Anyway,
I gotta go drop the Browns off at the Super Bowl. There you go.
no, drop the Steelers off at the Super Bowl.
What?
That was
Anyway,
what I couldn't remember.
Are we
Anyway,
talking about going to the bathroom?
we
or
are
what?
off
No?
topic. We are off topic. Anyway, for those of you who are watching this after it was live, please post your comments in the comments area. Thanks for watching. Also, remember to like and subscribe. And if these guys give me permission, I will include their links in the description as well, so you can check out their stuff. Goodbye, everybody.
thank you for having me.
But,